I'm delighted to say Sarah Rowe is with us now. Sarah, good morning to you, all the way from Australia. How are you?
Morning, how are you?
You're playing Aussie rules again, is that correct? Is that where you are at the moment?
Yeah, back in Melbourne the last 3 weeks now, back into pre-season.
How's that going?
Yeah, good. It's obviously, I've been transitioning sports over the last year, so having gone back to soccer for 6 months and going back into AFL again, there's always a transition phase with that. But yeah, I had a great time just going back to a sport that I love, a sport that I grew up playing, and now I suppose I was always in contract with Collingwood, so I'm back into the business end of things now. It's our training load has increased a lot, and the expectations of players over the coming season is far more than it has been any other seasons. We now train during the day and then we do 2 night sessions, whereas it used to be all night sessions. So like a few things have changed, and the expectations is definitely higher. So it's been a tough 3 weeks coming straight back in, but enjoying the system and just being back in a professional environment.
I think I remember hearing you say before, Sarah, that you have to train your mind a certain way to play these different sports, and each time, I guess, when you're going back and forth between different sports, is it tough, or do you manage to? Is it almost like a light switch?
It depends how long you're out from the game. Like obviously, with me being out from soccer for 8 years, like that was a real challenge. Like in the first few weeks were very difficult because you have an expectation of yourself where you think you should be at and the standard you hold yourself to. But like really that was a version of you 8 years ago. And also it's like, being a nurse, being a teacher, whatever, if you don't practice it, you lose it. So for me, I felt like I had to relearn a lot of things, like even the language around the game, like the tactical aspect, the technical aspect, and then obviously the physical side, your touch, all that stuff. So it really felt like I was learning something again. But Melbourne Victory was such a big help to me in that, because it was, directly from Collingwood into another professional environment. So I was exposed to, such great education and great coaches. And then obviously transitioning then back to Bowes was great because I needed as much games as possible to, get up to standard as quick as possible. But then going back to AFL now this time around, because I've only been away from the game for 6 months, it doesn't feel like as much of a transition. It's just more so the strength side of the game. You just need to adapt your body again and probably put on a kg or 2 and then go again. So it doesn't feel as hard coming back this way. It felt a lot harder going back to soccer.
Fitness wise, soccer, Aussie rules, Gaelic football, like how do they rank?
Yeah, they're very similar in ways, and going across the 3 sports, you can. I feel like I can compete in every game with the level of fitness that I have from, say, AFL transitions across to soccer and soccer transitions across to Gaelic. But there's small differences in terms of like what we do with soccer. Say you might lift weights like twice a week. In AFL, you'll do 3 to 4, and our runs are a lot longer. It's a very powerful, explosive game. So like there is slight differences, and you definitely, I think like our strength and conditioning coach is like to me, he's like, I'll get you back to where you need to be in 4 weeks. And it's not a massive jump, but there is a transition phase where he's like, I need you to be this, this and this. So we adapt and change my training from soccer to AFL. So yeah, there's a bit of a process with it, but it's not massive. Like there's not huge gaps.
Do you have the same GPS stats? Can you compare and contrast like the number of sprints you do in a AFL game versus soccer versus GAA?
Yeah, like you would. It is interesting to look at that side of things, because like in a soccer game you might do say 11, 12k, 14k including your warm-up, and high intensity running would be anywhere between like 500 meters to kind of 800 meters. But then AFL, obviously the game is shorter and you're rotating on and off, but you would maybe do between 9 and 10k, and then your high intensity running would be about a kilometre, 1.2 kilometres. So the high intensity running seems to be a bit more in AFL than it is in soccer. Obviously soccer is a lot more, there's a lot of change of direction and short steps. So that's what I mean by there's just being really small details, but when you know your body so well, you go into those environments and you know exactly what you need to, you kind of know exactly what you need to do. Like that when I went from AFL to soccer, I was like, I feel a bit heavy, I don't feel that light in my feet, and I need to get my short steps better, I need to do more agility work, and I need to go into a power phase. And less of the strength phase. So yeah, it does just take a small bit of time.
What's the World Cup like in Australia? Because obviously, you've this Ireland team so well, and you've kind of been in Australia on and off over the last couple of years. How big an event is it? Are you seeing it every day, or has it actually captured the public's imagination just yet, do you think?
Yeah, well, I was up in Sydney last Wednesday, and I just soaked up the atmosphere of all the Irish fans, and it was just incredible to see those green jerseys walking around everywhere. It was just like really and truly, Irish fans are the best fans in the world, and just they go above and beyond. So that was really cool to see. And then in Melbourne, there's a lot of stuff around the World Cup, like a lot of the rugby teams, soccer teams like Melbourne Victory, they've been kicked out of their facilities because FIFA are in with teams training in their facilities. We have to park somewhere else for training because the World Cup is taking precedence at the moment. But so yeah, there's things like that happening. There is an atmosphere around Richmond area, which is I suppose the centre of sport in Melbourne. So you can really feel it, and you can see it, and everyone's talking about the games. It's so good to see the way women and sport have, the profile of it all has grown so much. Like, people are asking you, like, are you watching the game tonight? And that they're talking about the women's game. Like, you're not normally, when someone asks, are you watching the game tonight, it's generally a men's game. So I think it's incredible to see
the Irish performance, Sarah, in that opening game. I guess pure disappointment that they couldn't nick a goal at the end and take something from the game, but still, I guess it leaves us in a reasonable position. We think now we can potentially push the Canadians, get a result there. So it was disappointing from a result perspective, but performance wasn't bad.
Yeah, I thought the performance was really good. I thought the girls did really well, and I think they made it really hard for the Matildas to play the style of football that they wanted to play. I think they were very well organised and set up. I think they were very unfortunate to concede a penalty, obviously, and you would have liked to have the ideal result out of that game would have been a draw. So yeah, it's disappointing in that way, but I think the girls can hold their heads up high. And yeah, Canada is a massive game on Wednesday, and they really need a big performance.
Were you disappointed not to have made the final, I guess, squad standby list? How close do you think you'd pushed it?
Yeah, I think time was a big factor for me as well. I think getting back into soccer was just so enjoyable for me to go back to it. Like, I had this itch to go back for so long. Well, I was on standby, so I was in a home-based training camp just before the squad was announced. So I felt like I just ran out of a small bit of time. I think I needed a couple of more weeks to play a few more games, and then get into a few more squad training sessions. I think I would have probably a bit more of a chance then. But no, wasn't disappointed. Loved the process of soccer, and loved going back to it in the first place. So and also the girls, like, so many of the girls have worked so hard to get to where they are, and it's the squad that got picked was a great squad. And you see girls like Megan Campbell, you see Leanne Kieran, these girls being left out of the squad, and Jamie Finn even not being selected in the actual squad. So it's very disappointing for those girls, whereas for me it was just a process of going back to football and seeing where it would take me, and knowing that I was close and was good, just to know that I could be in around the squad. But yeah, I was delighted for the girls who got selected.
How do you think we're going to do in the next two games?
I think Ireland make it really hard for teams to play because they work really hard, and they just, that never say die attitude that Irish people have, and is just something that you either have it, and I think we have it in our blood, or you don't. And I think that's what really gets us across the line in big games. So I think I'd love to see Amber Barr come on. I'd love to see a few other girls come on and get game time, like Chloe Mustaki, and maybe mix it up a small bit. But I think, yeah, it's anyone's game. Obviously, like in a World Cup, anything can happen. I think I'd like to see them beat Nigeria. I'd like to see them get some sort of result out of Canada, be it a draw or sneak a 1-0 win. But that's kind of where I see it.
And when's your first game? When does the season restart?
Season doesn't start until September, so we've another 5 weeks of pre-season left.
Is that 5 weeks of misery?
5 weeks of misery. The first block is like a strength block. The last 3 weeks have been the hardest 3 weeks of training I'd say I've ever done. Which is saying a lot, but it's been great. Like that's what you want. Like you want to be uncomfortable the whole way through, and then we're kind of going into a bit more of a deload week this week, and then we'll ramp it up again for like 3 weeks free games, and then we're into games. So it flies. But we're over the worst block, but it's still obviously everyone's competing for places now, so it's never like you can ever relax.
All right.
Did I see you were training with Andrew Omabamidele recently, Sarah, as part of the pre-season?
Yeah, I was training over in Portugal for a few days, and there was a camp called the Radcliffe Group, and there was a load of soccer players filtering in and out of the campus gym. So I was just happened to be training there, and I got talking to a few coaches, and they were asking what sport I played, and then they just said, do you want to join in for a couple of sessions? So joined in. It was great. It's always great to train with boys. I feel like it's something they do a lot of in soccer, is you play against underage teams. Even with Melbourne Victory, like we would play challenge games against underage boys teams, and it just gets your mind thinking, and it's really good, and it's really good for your development. So it's great. It's great.
Sarah, good stuff. We'll let you go. Thanks a million for joining us again. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.